to the next new chapter. The one I bought it from office also. One is office one, and another is yours. So hydrosphere fully complete.
No.
The warm currents and cold currents are pending. Check in your notes.
Warm currents हो गया.
So then the chapter is done. Warm currents and cold currents. I might have done together. So next, shall we continue with denudation?
Yeah, completed, sir.
Sure.
Yes.
Measuring के बाद denudation किया.
हुआ है सर.
सर टाइट्स
टाइट्स
तक हुआ था, करंट्स नहीं हुआ है. करंट्स कैसे पूरा
मॉडल में हो गया चलो. अरे नहीं हुआ है वो याद है.
Warm currents and cold currents में I say.
हाँ हुआ. ये तो हुआ.
सर नीप टाइट्स ही हुआ है, ओशन करंट स्टार्टिंग नहीं की है.
ठीक.
नीप टाइट्स तक ही हुआ है.
Okay guys. Very good.
मुझे लग चैप्टर आता तो मजा आता.
Listen. So here. Now who can tell me the difference between
warm and cold?
नहीं वो तो मैं बताऊंगा. Ocean currents and tides. एक मैंने oscillatory बोला था, if you remember. Which is oscillatory movement of the water?
Tides.
Tides है.
मैं guess था सर.
नहीं guess नहीं है, मैंने notes दिए हैं. Check करो. Why are you guessing?
मैंने नोटबुक में मिला यार.
So who has brought it? Check it. What are tides then?
Waves ना.
Waves and oscillatory movement of the water due to the gravitational force. Whereas tides
rise and fall of sea water due to gravitational force.
and what is waves?
Are oscillatory movements of water created by alternate rise and fall of sea water.
Okay. Now out of these two, now we are going to something new which is called as currents or ocean currents. Now we generally understand currents generally, है ना? ये this is called as a cyclone. It's not related to currents, just understand. And then look at the picture is the same. This is called as anticyclone. Now who can tell me the difference between these two? For any cyclone, always low pressure is in the center and high pressure on the outer. Here opposite. High pressure in the center and low pressure in the.
Wow.
Generally, cyclones are dangerous. Can stand for hardly 24 hours, but very strong winds and monsoons of greater type. अभी जितना भी monsoon time में cyclones आते हैं, they are there. Anticyclones are not very dangerous. They can go for weeks, they can go for months. But then drizzling rain होता रहेगा. Nothing to worry. Now when I move this, we have currents. अभी currents का क्या करना है first? Source कहाँ से start होता है? Or I can say origin. Correct? Second, I have to decide, not decide, it is already mentioned. Warm, understand guys. It's a cold current. Then we will be studying areas of influence. I'm saying areas of influence. And उसका economic importance क्या होता है? What is economic importance में दो ही paragraph या दो point आपको याद रखना है. I'll do it very tactically. You also remember that. One, whether it is going to be a fishing ground, warm and cold मिलता है. B, whether it is used for navigation. You know what is navigation? Helping it. And three, it is highly important for, we can say, defreezing. You know what a defreezing? कुछ जगह पर freeze होने का chances रहता है due to some warm current. So economic importance is something they will be asking separately. But before do that, we have to understand lake. I mean, our ocean currents are normally, I'll say OC, are categorized into two. Any idea? Warm current and cold current. It is not hot, it is but warm. Atmosphere, ground temperature, or from where it originates, will make the current warm. I mean, I say mid-Atlantic ridge, correct? Or Atlantic, what is that, Gulf Stream, is a warm current. Labrador current, which is in Canada and US, that is a cold current, correct? So every current has certain its own importance. But normally we will study from the importance of fishing ground. Why fishing ground? Fish इसके लिए पैदा नहीं होता है. It helps in the growth of algae and planktons. You know what are algae and planktons?
No.
सुना ही नहीं है.
Algae सुना है मैंने.
What are plankton?
वो-
Small.
Algae
हाँ.
water में रहता है ना.
And these are the two on which the fishes come and eat. Because if you have carefully gone for any time fishing, not fishing. Okay. Always fish swim across the wind, across the tides or across the flow of the water. Never fish will go with the water. Why? मुझे किसी ने बोला जाके फिश को पूछो मेरे से कैसे? शायद उसने इंग्लिश का फ्रेज पढ़ लिया. What is that? Go with the wind. They said तो against जाता है. Because if it is going with the water current, the water will take the fish. So I don't know how many really understand a discovery or an explorer mentality. I always teach my children to be an adventurer and an explorer. When you are caught in the jungle and you don't have any mariners, compass, mobile network, nothing is there. How will you come out? इसने बोला सर मैं 911 कॉल करेगा. अरे बाबा 911 कॉल करने के लिए लगना भी तो इमरजेंसी कॉल लगता है. अरे लगता है बट तू लोकेशन कैसा बताएगा? वो चार जे पेड़ के बीच में चार वो पेड़ के बीच में खड़ा है. वो क्या पेड़ गिरते हुए आएगा तो पूरा साल लग जाएगा. I can show you that video is there. Out of 4 adventurer geography adventurer tourists, not tourists, they were explorers only. 3 could come out of the Amazon. 1 was stuck inside. After 2 weeks, he was caught alive, but in a very bad condition because उसके पास जितना भी खाना पीना था 2 दिन नहीं था. तो किसी ने पूछ लिया भाई तो 2 अब तक क्या खा रहा था? हाँ. He pocket 1 bed bug, which is of this much size. यही मैं खा के जिंदा था. The interviewer was a lady. She painted there. उतना बड़ा bed खाया कैसे? तो उसे लगा मारने से अच्छा तो खाने को मिला क्योंकि उधर बहुत unwanted creatures रहता है. तो किसी डॉक्टर ने बोला this bed bugs are high protein diet. Eating that only remain alive. So these are the things. And how to catch a fire when there is no matchstick, when there is no lighter, cigar, कुछ नहीं. But stone भी गीला पड़ा है. So these are the things we teach the student. Survival in the remotest place. तो लड़का बोलते हैं इतना remote place जाना ही क्यों? मैं बैठो टीवी देखो जहाँ भी कैसे. अरे but देखो you and me are not that, but these Americans have this bad habit of going for adventure. And sorry to say, what nature teaches you is totally different from what I am teaching or what this textbook teaches. But then you have to be survived. बहुत सारा movies में एक ही दिखाता है. हम whatever might be the circumstances, cyclones, anti-cyclone, whatever, but one thing, we remain together, we helped each other, and we came out of it. हम इधर एक घर के अंदर ही हम लोग remain together नहीं. Forget about outside the house. है? So whatever we are going to learn here, we will be studying under warm and cool current. Put the heading in your notebook, write 2 lines, and we'll come back to the textbook, start marking quick, and I will not only finish this, I will start the next chapter.
Yes.
Might be your branch, might be the first branch to go ahead of this chapter. Right. 2 days before I was watching certain comedies of that 3 movie idiots. Especially I love the scenes of Amir Khan. Sir, ये मुझे grading system बिल्कुल पसंद है.
मैंने आज ही देखा.
आज ही देखा ना. तो क्या बताना है कि सबके कान में बोलूं आप पास हो गए. नहीं देखा मूवी. तो बहुत से चेतन बहुत अच्छा मूवी है. चलो right. Currents are large masses of ocean currents. So see. Too fast. Come on. Large masses of surface water. Large masses, I'm writing it here also, of surface water. SWR, don't write southwest. Which circulates in fixed regular patterns. Which circulate in fixed regular patterns. मतलब जिस डेट टाइम पे बोलेगा वैसे तो नहीं, बट वो सीजन में जनरली वो एक ही पैटर्न में फ्लो करेगा, नॉट इन ऑल डायरेक्शंस. फिक्स रेगुलर पैटर्न्स around the ocean, right? She is very smart. देखो देखो next point. Don't you think I'm adding, eating some word, spitting some word? No, इतना भी नजर नहीं है. Based on the temperature, it is broadly classified into. Based on the temperature, it is broadly classified into A.
Warm and cold.
Warm नहीं है, my dear. It's warm. Say it again.
Warm and
That I was teaching my CBSE 9 guys to read the news. There is a Beyond News channel. Very popular lady.
He is also not right. Sharp writing.
He's writing.
No, not writing.
Alright. Where is the notebook?
वही नहीं है.
No.
No, sorry sir. Sir मैं पक्का आपको next class में.
अभी क्या करेगा? मच्छर
अभी मैं
मारेगा?
बात करूँगा जो आप बोलोगे.
Where she is? She is writing. Where is your notebook?
मैं भूल गया हूँ sir.
क्या मूवी क्या है?
नहीं भूल
भूल गया. हाँ चलो मूवी मार लीजिए. You वाला में. Come out and say. I'll tell you.
अरे
बाहर तो जा. अरे very good. बाहर आ जल्दी. मैं बाहर आएगा तो बताएगा ना.
हाँ
We understood that. Come quickly.
सर है ना मिडल पेज.
उधर से लिखो.
नहीं देते.
मैं अभी बाहर अंदर से लॉक कर देता हूँ. Warm currents and cool currents.
You are saying something.
You are interested in something. And something is not going to something. ये और भी है. Warm current, cold current लिखा. हाँ. कम कर. Then 3 लिखना. 3 और C. The surface current and deep water current. इसका वीडियो है. The surface current and deep water current. Deep water current.
सर हमें क्वेश्चन आंसर आपने दिए थे.
कब लिया?
पिछले वीक में.
नहीं किया.
मैंने किया मेरे बुक में.
अच्छा. किसने नहीं किया? इन दोनों.
मैं अगले टाइम दिखाता हूँ आपको.
मतलब तो अगले टाइम तक क्या आएगा?
एक मिनट.
मैं आपको कल आप आ जाओ.
How many questions?
6 थे. क्वेश्चन नंबर 2 1 2 3 ऐसा कुछ.
There is no.
प्रॉब्लम है सर.
How do I know that you have done? अच्छा, these guys have not done.
Question number 2, 4, 6 है.
अरे वो याद कैसे रखूं कौन से?
इसको इंग्लिश में बोलते हैं. You scratch my back, I'll scratch your back.
नो नो.
Just because that's
अभी
sweet.
कॉल करके बुला कर ये क्या?
चलो start करो. हाँ.
सर
कॉल
खुद
करो.
को याद नहीं था. अली ने बोला चलो मत बता सबको मत बता.
तो मैंने क्यों बताया
आपने क्या बोला मत बता?
हाँ.
कोई बोला मत बता.
मेरे को लगा कि मैंने नहीं किया करके तो मैं तो बोल रही हूँ नहीं किया.
मैंने तो किया है भाई. मैं से
इसलिए नहीं.
मैं से झूठी बातें नहीं करता.
कॉल करके बोलना फिर
नहीं यार कोई नहीं है.
कैसे जाएगा फिर?
मैं चाहता हूँ साइकिल नहीं जाएगा.
वैसे जा
मेरा गाड़ी लेके जा.
नहीं सर इतना नहीं चला सकता. टूट भी जाऊंगा तो आऊंगा ही नहीं वापस.
किसी को ड्राइवर को रख लेता है.
है सर बट अभी वो यहाँ पर.
ये देखो. ड्राइवर भी है इसका. There is one app I don't know. मेरा दोस्त बार-बार बोलता रहता है. 2 व्हीलर से पिकअप करके छोड़ता कौन सा?
हाँ है सर. वो नाम नहीं पता बट है.
सच बोलने का भी एक तरीका है. चलो let's write.
Yes, yes.
Yes sir.
Warm current I'm giving. Write down. Which flows from low altitudes to higher altitudes. Lower latitudes, I'm so sorry. Lower latitudes to higher altitudes. Which brings warm water into cold areas. मैंने पैसा लेगा.
I have nothing to do.
ये अगर हमारा ट्रॉपिक ऑफ कैंसर है या इक्वेटर है, यहाँ से वो पोलर रीजन की तरफ जाएगा. Since here the temperature is high, so whatever starts between 0 to 23.5, 0 to 23.5, south and north, it will be which kind of currents? Warm current. Why not they are saying hot currents?
Why?
I am asking why. Because this water and land heats and cools different. You know that? Water heats slowly and cools slowly. Land gets heated quickly and
Cold.
quickly, cools quickly, not cold quickly. चलो एग्जाम्पल डाल दो उधर वार्म ओशन करंट जो अभी हम करते हैं करेंगे वन बाय वन गल्फ स्ट्रीम ब्रैकेट में डालो नॉर्थ अटलांटिक ड्रिफ्ट इसका दो नाम लैब्राडोर करंट नॉर्थ अटलांटिक ड्रिफ्ट एंड गल्फ स्ट्रीम वही लिखो लैब्राडोर इज अ कोल्ड करंट ठीक है now go to cold current which begins from higher latitudes bracket डालो polar region which begins from higher latitudes to lower latitudes polar region लिखने का high latitudes हाँ to lower latitudes bracket में डालो equatorial region example Labrador current. Because there's a nice video, more than I explain. If you want.
'92, a cargo ship carrying bath toys got caught in a storm. Shipping containers washed overboard, and the waves swept 28,000 rubber ducks and other toys into the North Pacific. But they didn't stick together. Quite the opposite. The ducks have since washed up all over the world, and researchers have used their paths to chart a better understanding of ocean currents. Ocean currents are driven by a range of sources: the wind, tides, changes in water density, and the rotation of the Earth. The topography of the ocean floor and the shoreline modifies those motions, causing currents to speed up, slow down, or change direction. Ocean currents fall into two main categories: surface currents and deep ocean currents. Surface currents control the motion of the top 10% of the ocean's water, while deep ocean currents mobilize the other 90%. Though they have different causes, surface and deep ocean currents influence each other in an intricate dance that keeps the entire ocean moving. Near the shore, surface currents are driven by both the wind and tides, which draw water back and forth as the water level falls and rises. Meanwhile, in the open ocean, wind is the major force behind surface currents. As wind blows over the ocean, it drags the top layers of water along with it. That moving water pulls on the layers underneath and beneath them. In fact, water as deep as
In this video, we shall learn about ocean currents. Now, what are ocean currents? Well, they are streams of water moving along the surface of the ocean in a definite path. Such more or less permanent streams of water which flow in a definite direction are known as ocean currents. Ocean currents are like rivers in the ocean, thousands of kilometers in length and sometimes about 200 kilometers wide. Based on temperature, ocean currents can be broadly divided into two categories, that is, warm currents and cold currents. Warm currents are those currents which flow from the lower latitude in tropical zones towards the high latitudes in the temperate temperate and the subpolar zones. That is, they move from equator towards the poles and they bring the warm water into the cold water area. When it is cold currents, they have a lower surface temperature and bring cold water into warm water areas. These currents flow in the high latitudes from the polar region towards the lower latitudes, that is, towards towards the equatorial region. Then, based on their depth, the ocean currents can be divided into two categories, and that is surface currents and deep water currents. Surface currents constitute about 10% of all the water in the ocean and lie at the upper 400 meters of the ocean. Deep water currents make up the other 90% of the ocean water. These waters move around the ocean basin due to variations in the density and gravity. Deep waters sink into the deep ocean basins at high latitudes, where the temperatures are cold enough to cause the density to increase. Let us study the causes of ocean currents. Well, the causes of ocean currents are level of salinity, temperature, Earth's rotation, land, and the planetary winds. So if we see the level of salinity, when I say level of salinity, it means the amount of salt present in the water. Salinity of the sea is generally affected by the inflow of fresh water from the rivers, melting ice, and rainfall, and by evaporation. For example, a high rate of evaporation in the Mediterranean Sea increases the salinity, and therefore the density also increases. As a result, the currents of less dense, that is, less salt water, flow into the Mediterranean Sea from the Atlantic and the Black Sea. Smaller countercurrents of a higher density or salinity flow outward, but that would be beneath these currents, so that the salt content of the basin remains constant. Next one is the temperature. The temperatures are higher at the equator than the poles. Hence, the water in the ocean near the equatorial region is heated more than that near the poles. This unequal heating sets up convectional currents in the ocean. The warm waters of the equatorial region are light and move along the surface towards the polar region, where they are cooled. The cold water is dense and heavy. It sinks downwards from the surface and moves slowly towards the equator, where on warming up, it may rise to the surface again. Next one is the Earth's rotation. The Earth rotates from west to east. First of all, the speed of rotation of the Earth is maximum at the equator, that is around 1,600 kilometers per hour. are. So all moving bodies, that is winds and ocean currents, move in a clockwise direction in the northern hemisphere and anti-clockwise direction in the southern hemisphere. For example, For example, if we take up the Canary and the Gulf Stream in the northern hemisphere, they are moving clockwise, whereas the Brazilian and the Benguela current, if you look at, they are moving anti-clockwise direction. Next one is the planetary wing. Winds. Now, planetary winds also play a dominant role on the flow of ocean currents. Now, the names of the winds are trade winds, westerlies, and the monsoon winds. Trade winds blow between the equator and the tropics. These winds move equatorial waters polewards and westward. They warm the eastern coast of the continent. For example, the North Equatorial Current warm up the eastern coast of North America as the Gulf Stream, and the South Equatorial Current warms up the eastern coast of Brazil as the warm Brazilian current. Then it is westerlies. Now, westerlies blow in the temperate latitudes and result in the northeasterly easterly flow of water in the northern hemisphere and the opposite in the southern hemisphere. The westerlies force the warm Gulf Stream to the western coast of Europe as the North Atlantic drift. They cause the cold west wind drift to flow towards the equator as the Peru current along the South America and the Benguela current along South Africa. Next one, the monsoon winds. The strongest influence of the prevailing winds on the flow of current is seen in the North Indian Ocean. Due to the monsoon winds, the direction of the currents change from southwest in summer to the northeast in winter. Because over India, these are the two main winds, that is southwest monsoon winds and northeast monsoon winds. Next one is the land. A landmass obstructs the flow of water of an ocean current and diverts its movement. For example, at Cape Sao Rock, the South Equatorial Current gets divided into two branches. One joins the North Equatorial Current and the other becomes the Brazilian Current.
मैंने कुछ नहीं किया
चलो जाने दो, I didn't know. All kinds of experiments going on. Right on, right on, quickly. ये पैरन नहीं आने का तो नहीं आने का. चलो right on.
After extra maths का lecture.
You write Gulf Stream. Gulf Stream. कोई का एक कर्म तो खत्म कर सकते. Gulf Stream. With its extension in northern Europe, with its extension, in class there. With its extension in northern Europe, it is also known as, with its extension in northern Europe, it is also known as North Atlantic Drift. Also, ऊपर रख के लिखो ना. Second point, it is powerful, warm and swift. It is powerful, warm and swift. Swift का मतलब speed, and flows over the North Atlantic part. Next point, mainly responsible for strong cyclone, mainly responsible for strong cyclones of all types. Strong cyclones of all types within the atmosphere and the ocean. Within the atmosphere and the ocean. And within the ocean. Full stop. In America, it can be tapped for. ये अमेरिका ही बनाता है पूरा दुनिया में. Can be tapped for source of renewable power generation. It is strong current. Renewable power generation. You understand what is renewable and non-renewable? Write the second one. North Atlantic Drift. Do we have 3 minutes? Yes, we can finish. Okay. Point number 1. It runs from Grand Bank, bracket another means formula, to Western Europe. Grand Bank to Western Europe. Second point, it is a warm Atlantic Ocean current. Atlantic Ocean currents. Currents नहीं है, एक साथ इसमें 2-3 current लगाने का. Next, it is deflected towards east. It is deflected towards the east under the influence of westerlies. Westerlies, यहाँ westerlies उसने देखा है north से equator की तरफ आता है. Under the influence of westerlies. Next point, due to the rotation of the earth, ये कौन सा फोर्स है? बोला?
सेंट्रीफ्यूगल नहीं है.
बोला.
पहला और ही कुछ बोला.
क्या?
सेंट्रीफ्यूगल बोला.
Due to the rotation of the earth, it reaches the Europe and named us. NAD. What is NAD? North Atlantic Drift. NAD, which keeps the ports of Europe, seaport, free from ice. ये बहुत जरूरी है अभी जो है, even in winter. ये पॉइंट एग्जाम में भी आया, एक बार नहीं, बहुत बार आया. Next point, even in the winter. Next point, it mainly flows in 3 directions. ये बहुत याद रखो. ईस्ट टुवर्ड्स टू यूके. मैं हमेशा ऐसा बोलता हूँ स्टूडेंट्स को, ईस्ट ऐसा लिखो नोटबुक में, यूके लिखे, फ्लोज ईस्ट टुवर्ड टू यूके, सेमीकोलन डॉट एंड कॉमा, इधर नॉर्थ टुवर्ड्स टू आर्टिक रीजन. तो नॉर्थ लिखने का विच रीजन. एंड वैसे भी अगर आप ग्लोब में देखा जाएगा यूके इधर है, नॉर्थ टुवर्ड्स क्या जाएगा, आर्टिक रीजन ही जाएगा ना. North to Arctic region and southwards Spanish coast. Anybody can show me where is Spain?
Sir, on the earth.
No, very good.
You
ये इधर आता है, इधर somewhere down. वो Italy, उधर Spain. So first देखो, for first east to UK, north to Arctic and south to Spanish coast. चलो pack up. But every 5 minutes take short time. Let us neither we talk about studies nor we talk about your exams, है ना? And what? हाँ जाना तो है.